Why should you care about emerging technologies? It can all sound so complicated and obscure, and all that geek speak can really spin an ordinary person's head. But maybe it matters. And if you've been curious to find out, or if you need some convincing, today's episode of the League of Visionaries podcast is for you. You will be in the expert hands of our special guest who demystifies those great mysteries of emerging technologies, making it accessible and easy to understand for an ordinary person like, well, even me. And between us, that's saying quite a bit. Our guest today is Alex Pryor, a highly accomplished technology executive with a wealth of experience in the industry spanning over 2 decades. As the leader of digital innovation at EOH, she is responsible for driving business growth and value by identifying and implementing emerging technologies. Her focus is on innovation, and it has positioned her as a thought leader and advocate for the African technology ecosystem. As the founder of Africa Web3 Revolution, Alex is committed to promoting, celebrating, and supporting African businesses and individuals in the emerging tech space. She is also a founding member of the World Metaverse Council, which is dedicated to shaping the future of the metaverse and its impact on humanity. Alex's expertise in emerging technology, blockchain, Africa, Web3, and women in leadership has made her a sought-after speaker at industry conferences. She is a passionate advocate for innovation and driving positive change in the technology landscape. But not only all of that, she is also a great, down-to-earth, kind-hearted and considerate person who's willing to take all those strange terms and make them easy for any one of us to understand. And to experience that and get all the benefit of Alex's wisdom, this is the episode for you. See you on the other side for this episode of the League of Visionaries podcast as we talk to Alex Pryor on emerging technologies. Welcome to the League of Visionaries podcast by Yazzie Media. The League of Visionaries podcast is your place to meet visionaries, professionals, entrepreneurs, and other thought leaders with a visionary message to share. This podcast is for you if you too are a visionary driven by a deeper purpose in your work, your play, and your investments. I'm your host, Marie-Therese Leroux, the media strategist with Soul and founder and owner of Yazzie Media Virtual Media House. Connect with this League of Visionaries as we explore the power of purpose and how to bring it to the world through your message. This season of the League of Visionaries podcast is brought to you by Totally Morpheus, creators of the E13 Leadership Assessment. It's fast, it's fun, it's free, and it points the way to your living leadership legacy. Alex Pryor, what a privilege to have you with us on the League of Visionaries podcast.
Hi there, and thank you so much for having me, Marie. I'm really excited to chat to you.
And you've got a really visionary message to share. It's one that is so worth hearing. It's one we're sometimes scared of. And I think a big part of your being here today is actually making that message open and friendly and accessible to everyone. Tell us about your visionary message, Alex.
Perfect. So I think even before we get into who I am, my vision is really twofold. Firstly, it's to look at emerging technologies and really start demystifying that for people, because those who are in the know suffer from that wonderful cognitive bias called the curse of knowledge, in which we think, because we know about it, that everyone else does too. And unfortunately, most people don't. And we're looking at a space and time where technology is evolving and adapting so quickly that people risk being left behind. Corporates especially risk being left behind. So I really am on a mission to educate and to turn all the technical jargon about blockchain and layer twos and NFTs and extended reality. And yes, Marie's giving me that lovely look going. So I want to take that look and make it go, oh, that makes sense. And beyond that, my vision really is to elevate what I call the forgotten continent, namely Africa. We are the second largest continent in terms of landmass. We are the second largest continent in terms of population, and we are the second largest continent in terms of cryptocurrency adoption. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute and what it means. But everyone forgets we exist. Whenever you see an international conference or you see something written about us or about the world, and especially in technology, if there's one African person included, it's a lot. And half the time there's no one there. And yet we'd have the most amazing innovation and the most amazing things that are coming out because our challenges are a little bit different to the rest of the world. So I'm incredibly passionate about raising that profile of Africa and of African tech businesses in particular to the rest of the world.
That's really, really well put. And it makes a beautiful combination because we don't often hear the words technology in Africa in the same breath. And with recent guests on the podcasts, we've had Ilan Prujinka, who spoke about Africa being on the cusp of an economic miracle. We've had Charlotte Kemp, who speaks about the futures and the futurist angle on Africa and what is possible here. And they both say something similar to what you just said. It's this idea of the forgotten continent, and that actually that's a narrative. It's a story we've been told, and it's one that we've grown to believe. But what about the other stories? We're not hearing them. And these are definitely among those that we would love to hear from you, especially when it comes to technology. And I wonder if we should jump in so that we can stay away from the scary jargon, because I know you're going to demystify that for us as we go along. But you speak about Africa having the second highest cryptocurrency adoption in the world as a continent. Like, I heard that right?
You heard that absolutely correctly. And it's something that surprises people. The top 10 countries globally for adopting cryptocurrency. And for those of you who don't know, cryptocurrency is an alternate set of currencies that was originally built to replace the current finance system. There's a lot surrounding it that is problematic there are thousands and thousands of coins, but only really a few have value. And most were just launched a little bit as a money grab, which doesn't help. So people tend to think of cryptocurrency as, oh, it's a scam. But here in Africa, it's just another mobile currency. We've had mobile currency since 2007 with M-Pesa. So one of the reasons we have such massive adoption in this space is that it's a more secure currency, because even though it's volatile, it is often less volatile as a currency than the actual currencies of the countries we have here. The second reason is, as I say, it's not new tech. It's not something that they need a laptop for. It's not something that people need to have any specialized equipment. It's on their phone, and there's a relatively small learning curve to get into it when you've already been using an M-Pesa wallet for 2007, 16, 17 years.
That is just incredible. And you touch on something there that is quite a revelation. We hear there definitely has been a lot of a bad rap around cryptocurrency because of the volatility, definitely the risk, and then also a lot of scams that were literally built on the cryptocurrency. Yes. And many people here in South Africa got burned with a very famous one, or maybe more than one, I suppose. It really has got the bad rap. But very often, because of the media hype, and there's only so much the media can fit into their soundbite, we don't understand that this is just the same as fire can burn down your house, and it can also cook your meal. It's really the tool that is neutral, and it's really the hands that it goes into. But there is a strong association with greed, and definitely a lot of people got interested in cryptocurrency with the intention to make a profit, and sometimes an unrealistic expectation of making a profit without actually earning it, right? But at the same time, you're talking here about the M-Pesa, that actually has been empowering people in countries around Africa where banking could not have done it, and actual currency could not have done it. So it can be a great equalizer. Would you speak to that?
Absolutely. And I think you've hit the point on the head. these new currencies, and I can't speak about cryptocurrency without also acknowledging what are called central bank digital currencies, which is a big, scary term for just digital money, but that is backed up by your country and that your reserve bank issues. There are some issues with that as well in terms of what can be done with it. That would make Big Brother very happy from the George Orwell novel. But really, there's something like at last time I checked, 105 countries globally, representing more than 95% of global GDP, are looking at digital currencies exactly for this reason, because the reserve banks globally can see the way the wind is blowing in terms of adoption of these alternate methods of currency. It's the reason the likes of MasterCard and Visa are investing heavily in ensuring that they've got on-ramps and gateways into that. Basically means that they can link into the existing banks. So it is the great equalizer, whether that is with a traditional cryptocurrency or whether that is with a central bank digital currency. If we have time, we can chat a little bit about Nigeria later and how not to do it. But they ran into a few issues, not with the currency, but the with the cash portion. We'll get to that. But yes, when you are no longer limited by infrastructure, when you're no longer limited by people's perception of what your country or your continent can do, when everyone is interacting in the same currency instantaneously, suddenly there's a lot less of a gap between me sitting here in Cape Town in South Africa and someone sitting in Belgium or in China or in America. Suddenly we are actually sitting on a far more level and global playing field.
That becomes really fascinating because there's so much more universality about it, right? Exactly. One currency means everybody can play the game. And that is something that emerging economies have struggled with for a long time, not only with the volatility that you've already mentioned, but very often the currencies in emerging economies just are not that strong, and they just don't go as far as the currencies in other countries do. And of course, there are lots of opportunities there if you know how to capitalize on that. But
which most people don't.
Which most people don't, exactly. So it's really knowledge certainly is power in this regard.
Yes, knowledge is power. And I want to dive a little more deeply into that. But before I do, the other issue that countries, especially countries in developing economies, have a problem with is that our currencies are very much influenced by the US dollar. And so what we had in the last couple of years, because of that, and also because obviously in 2021, the meteoric rise of what cryptocurrencies were worth before the big fat crash that happened, and everyone is now gone, crypto, is that two countries globally have adopted Bitcoin as an official, Bitcoin being the first cryptocurrency and the most valuable one, have adopted it as an official additional currency. That being El Salvador, which is very much still very bullish on cryptocurrency, and the other being Central African Republic. And they're doing that because they want to move their reliance away from the US dollar, the reliance away from other countries controlling what they do and have a bit more control themselves over what they're doing and how they're spending their money. The IMF does not like this very much. They're actually putting things in place for loans that say that you cannot adopt cryptocurrencies as official currencies if you are taking an IMF loan. But we're likely to see that change over the coming years as this becomes more common and as the legislation expands globally. But then we were going to delve deeper a little bit into knowledge is power. And for that, I think it's important to maybe move away from cryptocurrency being the first and most common use case for what we call blockchain technology, and really move into emerging technology, much of which is based on that underlying technology. Now, the problem, as I said at the beginning with us tech people, is we like to talk tech. And to start with, it makes us feel superior. I know something you don't know. But after a while, we forget we're doing it, and we forget that people don't understand. So if I drive my car, I don't need to know how the engine works. I just need to know how to drive it. If I use my phone, I don't need to know about the inner workings of the circuit boards or how someone built an app. I just use it. And that's where we need to get with emerging technologies. So you do not need to know how a blockchain works. You need to know that a blockchain is just a more secure method of securing data and having instantaneous transactions that remove the middleman and go directly between person or person, and that it is not limited to cryptocurrency. There are amazing use cases, and we'll get a little bit into them as we go through this, that have emerged because of this technology. And beyond the blockchain technology, we move into things like extended reality. And people think that's virtual reality and the big fat headset. But actually, it's turning into a far more immersive experience. And you might have heard the term metaverse. People are saying the metaverse is dead because Mark Zuckerberg and Meta is moving forward. But the technologies around it, the virtual reality, yes, but what we call augmented reality. Have you ever played Pokemon Go on your phone?
I never have, but I had a lot of students around me who did, and they were walking into things all over the place, right?
Exactly.
So, good example of AR.
That's augmented reality. So it's a mix between your phone and reality. And the technology surrounding holographic technology is also accelerating. And it's really, really exciting. So when we talk about metaverse, don't think of it as necessarily a digital world. Think of it as a new way of interacting with the internet as it is. And honestly, most people have probably used or experienced a metaverse. I mean, if your kids are into Roblox or Fortnite, or you've ever played World of Warcraft or any online game, you've experienced a metaverse. When we talk about the metaverse, it's a far more broad experience of how we interact with the internet. And a lot of that sits on this secure underlying technology, or more secure underlying technology. But where it gets exciting there is it's the emergence of new markets. Now, if my son and my daughter are very much into Minecraft, they love it. They'd love to be into Roblox, but they're 6 and 8, so they're still a little bit too young for that.
You've got scouts. It really helps to have a next generation to go and sort those things out for us.
But for those, when they go and they buy a new, what they call skin for their avatar, and your avatar is just your little creature that walks around the metaverse. When they go and buy a new outfit or a new look and feel for them, they've bought it, and that's cool. The company who owns it, Mojang, makes money. The creator who's put it on the store because they have that model makes a bit of money, but that's it. You can't resell it. You can't do anything with it. The emergence of this new technology allows me to create a new custom outfit for Creature X on this platform, sell it, and then that person, so if I sell it to you, you can then resell it to Ian, who then resells it to someone along the line. And the virtual money you get for that can actually be exchanged back on a cryptocurrency exchange for real money. It has opened an entire new world of how to make money online while playing games. There's a term for it called GameFi. So this technology is enabling things we never would have considered. A few years ago, yes, you could make money playing games, but you had to be the top player of your game and you had to be winning competitions. 2 years ago, when cryptocurrency was still worth a fair amount, there were people that were literally making a living playing a game called Axie Infinity that basically was kind of, if I remember correctly, like hatching monsters and little creatures. So literally they were eggs and you had to breed and hatch them. If my memory serves, you may well get people watching this going, that's not what Axie Infinity does. And if I'm incorrect about that,
I'll be
apologize.
impressed.
I have not looked it up in a while, but I do know that there were people making full-time livings from earning the rewards within that system and exchanging them for real money. So it's changing the way people are able to provide livings for themselves. It's changing the way that that businesses are able to interact with each other. It is going to change everything. And we are only at the beginning of the adoption curve. We're still despite the fact that technology has been around in its current form since about 2009, we're still very early. And what the space looks like in 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, we can't actually predict very well today. All we know is that more and more use cases, which is ways to use this technology, are coming up every single day. And we are seeing more and more people use it and seeing the benefit of using it.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And I love the way that you've been demystifying the terminology as we go along. You've been super aware. Thank you very much. Alex, I can't accuse you of speaking geek without translating. So thank you very, very much for that. But what you're saying is something really exciting, because we don't want to get stuck on only the financial side of this. Of course, cryptocurrency is a whole can of worms on its own, but full of its potential. But when you move out into the other applications, or as the geeks speak, if I'm doing well, the use cases tell us, then we see that really these are things that could potentially change the nature of our economy, not just the economy because of money, but really the economy because of the way that people spend their days. And here we're actually looking at almost the future of work, because it redefines what work is all about. If playing a game, if designing a new look for your avatar or your little character out on the web is going to be a way that people can actually make a living, we're looking at some really serious shifts in the way the world works, especially with leverage, because a couple of, well, not even that long ago, maybe a year and a half ago, towards the end of 2021, I believe, the NFT space, and here I'm going to be throwing the geek around.
Don't worry, I'll go into translation in a minute.
Oh, thank you so much, because you see, I can use the acronym, or I can use the abbreviation, but I'm not so good at the translation. But the NFT creators were already massively misinterpreted, because people went, oh, it's an ugly little picture of a monkey kind of thing. It's a really ugly picture and you pay a lot of money for it. That's what an NFT is. But actually, we also saw the artists who were fetching record payments for their work, some of it which was really a proof of dedication, right, of their commitment to what they were doing, and really getting exorbitant amounts of money for it. But that probably isn't sustainable. What it did do is that it shifted our perspective. So I'd love to ask first for your translation, please, of NFT, or non-fungible token. And then if you could touch a bit on what all the implications are of this, because if the challenge is that people are prejudiced about technologies, or they feel intimidated, or they say, but this is just something kids are doing on a game, why should my company pay attention? Why should they pay attention? But let's go first to the NFT. I'd love to understand what I just said, Alex.
Fabulous. So firstly, yes, NFT, as you mentioned, stands for non-fungible token. And I hate the term. I absolutely hate it, exactly for the reasons you've mentioned. It's confusing. People think it's a scam. They think it's just monkey pictures, and they don't understand what it actually is. So very briefly, non-fungible means unique. Token in this case means digital asset. So all an NFT is a unique digital asset. And yes, as you say, in the art market, so what we saw with all of the Bored Ape pictures, or those weird 8-bit heads you see, which is from a collection called CryptoPunks.
Oh, and I just have to pause you there, Alex, and say to anybody listening, you should have seen Alex's air quote on the art market. So-called art market, because there's a lot of controversy around this. Yes. So all these things, we have misinterpretations.
Absolutely. And the bubble on NFTs, as they were within, I'm going to put them in comments again, the art market has certainly burst, which is not to say people aren't still making a lot of money on it. The most expensive ape picture sold for something like $2.4 million. Today, you can pick one up for the bargain price of $114,000.
Oh, yeah, not too bad.
Well, comparatively. The thing is that you're not buying a profile picture. You're actually buying access into a very exclusive club. So your NFT actually gives you access to something extra, and that's to, I suppose, virtually rub shoulders with celebrities and other very high profile, inverted commas again, high profile individuals. You said that there are people like the artists with a commitment to everything making a lot of money. And unfortunately, on the world's largest NFT digital art market, 99% of everything on there has never been sold once. And of the collections that have made money, the bulk, including the Bored Apes collection, have been made by companies. It's not individuals who are getting it.
How fascinating.
But now is when we move into the more exciting stuff. So even within the art market, but I'm going to move it into the corporate and business market as well. Within the art market, if I am an artist, whether I am a actual artist, that is obviously not my painting, I'm not that good. But if I have a painting that I sell as an NFT, I could do it two ways. One, I could just have a piece of digital art that I sell, or two, I could have an actual physical piece of art and I sell it along with an NFT so that I'm actually tracking my provenance. So I can prove that I have bought this, and when I sell it to you, it goes with that record. So you've got a proof of ownership going along, which actually adds to the value in the art market because you have that proven record.
No more fake Mona Lisas.
Exactly. The second thing that you can do is you can assign what they call royalties. And just like in a book, where you get royalties for the sales, exactly the same thing. So currently, when I sell my painting, it's by a South African artist named Rick Becker. He's fantastic. But if I sell it, Rick gets nothing.
Yes.
But now, if I have sold it and then there's an NFT attached to it, Rick can set that he gets 5% of every sale in perpetuity. So if he got, say, $1,000 for this when the art gallery bought it, and then one day it sells for $1 million, with an NFT, Rick gets a portion of that. In a normal case, the artist gets nothing. They get some they get popularity, they get a bit of kudos, but for the most part, there's a reason that the starving artist is a meme. Even if you are successful, you generally sit within the corporate space. But it moves so much beyond that. And this is where we get into something that's called tokenization. And all that means is giving a virtual asset the same value that a physical asset has. So if a unique digital asset could effectively be anything, it's a transaction record that has certain other data that is attached to it, but it is showing that it is unique. So think of a ticketing system. You are selling a ticket for a concert to the world's top music artist, and you're issuing it as a ticket, and you're selling this ticket for $5,000, Rand, whatever currency you're using. And now I'm going to go and auction it off for $10,000 because, I want to make a profit on this. Obviously, technically, that's not allowed. In some countries, it is in fact illegal, but it doesn't stop it happening. What if instead of trying to stop people from doing that, you let them do it, but you issue it as an NFT? If you issue it as a digital asset, I still hate the term. You issue it as a digital asset, as a digital ticket, so that when I sell it off for $10,000, they get 10% of the profit. Because you set up
so everybody wins. There's a beautiful win-win in this.
Absolutely, and it's the first use case I normally bring up when I speak to corporate boards and corporate executives, because it's the one where they can immediately see, hey, wait, now I'm interested, now I'm listening to you. But it goes far beyond that, because anything that you can have as a physical asset, you can represent in the virtual world. And that can be something, we talked a little bit about virtual reality, augmented reality, the metaverse. That could be what we call a digital twin. And a digital twin is exactly what it sounds like. For myself, it would be an avatar that looks exactly like me. In the metaverse, I could also have an avatar that looks like a 3-headed alien with 4 arms.
It's still a digital twin, whatever the resemblance.
No, the digital twin is related to exactly what I look like. So it's an exact copy, but in the digital world. If I wanted to create something that didn't look like me, that's fine, but that's not a digital twin. But that's not limited to me. Nike has done this particularly well with NFTs. I keep calling them that, digital asset, is that they will have a pair of sneakers that are worth about $1,000. They will have an identical pair of sneakers worth about $5,000 to buy. Sometimes they go together, sometimes they don't. But the fashion industry is one of the most forward-thinking industries in this space, because they have seen how well it can go when they have that online record, or even that online unique item that no one else has. I think we're probably past the main days of seeing, $2 million for a picture of a rock. but we are going to see more and more examples of how we use this across multiple industries. Take medical. Here in South Africa, if you're part of the medical aid, if you're part of Discovery, you can sign so that you can get your medical records sent between doctors. If you're not on that, you don't have that option. If you're in the UK and you move from one county into the next, it is a nightmare to get your records transferred from a doctor who may literally be 5 miles away because it's sitting as a physical record. Now, imagine a world where all of your medical records, and bear in mind, these are very secure, they are encrypted, you can't access the data, what the data says, are sitting on a blockchain-based system. And anyone who has the correct rights to access it and have been given the permissions by you, we might add, can now have access to those records. We're already seeing use cases in things like supply chain that is tracking literally from farm to table, what's happening in the supply chain and picking up where the issues are. And as we've talked about, because it's on this chain that is so secure and it's very difficult to change, you've got a much better idea of what's happening. And it might be worthwhile now just to chat about why it's so secure, why it's so hard to change.
Yes, that's definitely part of the attraction here, right? Because with all our hesitance, we worry about privacy. I think that's one of the things that people get concerned about. You mentioned the big brother fears about having a digital currency that is somehow controlled by people who could wrap you on the knuckles by taking away all your money. And that's a pretty scary prospect, especially since we've seen that not all governments around the world are always just. So doing the right thing could actually have you punished with your means to survive. That's the shadow side. But you're talking about the light, the security. Let's see, what makes it so safe?
Okay, so I always use the book analogy when I talk about a blockchain. So if you think of a blockchain as a book, let me grab a book. What is a good book? Okay, we've got good old Bill Bryson over here. So
good choice.
So here is my book. This is my blockchain. Now in my book, there are pages, and every page in the book is what we call a block, but don't worry about that. And every line in the book is a transaction. So we can see it. Now, if I wanted to change something on page 3, or if I were to rip out page 3, you're immediately going to see that, hey, something's gone wrong. It's going to be very obvious. If I want to change page 3, I've got to change page 3 all the way through page, let's see, how many pages does this have? 677 odd pages. I have to change all of those pages to make it seem like that record was there to begin with. But the thing is, when you've got a blockchain, it's not just one book. You've got thousands to millions of copies of books all around the world, which means you effectively need to republish the entire book at the exact same time. But as in the publishing industry, you've got editors and publishers. You've got people who are going to say, yes, this is right, or no, it is not. Which means that unless you control at least half of or 51% of the entirety of all the books out there, you're not going to get what we call consensus. And consensus just means that, yes, we agree that this transaction is a real transaction. And it's all done by computers and algorithms. But because you've got so many identical copies that are not linked to each other in any kind of way, that means that if I burn this book, it's not going to burn every copy of Bill Bryson's books around the world. Exactly the same scenario, which makes it, as I say, especially for the larger blockchains, and here we're talking about, your Bitcoin or your Ethereum, and it does get confusing again because those are also cryptocurrencies. But where you've got a lot of people on it, it's almost impossible to change. There are a couple of ways, but it's virtually impossible. It is way more difficult than hacking a current organization and putting all of your data out onto the internet or selling it to the highest bidder. The other thing that becomes important, and I'm really going to cook your noodle now, quantum computing. Now, you might have heard of quantum computing and gone, okay, no touchy. That's way too confusing. But if you've seen a cybersecurity person hitting their head against a brick wall recently, it's probably because they've read the latest article on quantum computing. Quantum computing, basically, we've heard of the problem when we think about productivity is that 9 women can't have 1 baby in a month. Quantum computing effectively lets them do that, which means that quantum computing can walk through cybersecurity measures as they sit today, like they're not there. We're not there yet, but that's where we're heading with it. The computer processing speed is so fast that current cryptographic methods, encryption methods, may as well not exist. So that's obviously something that is very, very scary for us as individuals, for corporates, for pretty much everyone. It's certainly exciting to some people out there, but for the most
Maybe
part,
not the people we want to be excited.
No, exactly. So there are two groups of people who are excited about this. One are the scientists who are doing it, and the others are people who are rubbing their hands together going, I get to read every single email out there because I can now walk through Google security and have access to everyone's data.
I have to say, if they're willing to respond to my emails, they're actually welcome.
Absolutely. But and to be clear, there is not yet a quantum proof. There's not yet a quantum proof blockchain. There are a couple of quantum resistant ones, but where we sit right now today, and that could change, where we sit right now today, the blockchain-based system, decentralized global system of lots of different copies, offers the best chance to produce something that is going to be, if not quantum proof, it's going to be far more resistant to being decoded by these new techniques that are going to be coming hard and fast over the next few years. And if for no other reason than you're worried about cybersecurity, that is why you should start looking into this type of technology. If all you can get from this conversation, if you are in business, is one, knowing that the central banks are going to be issuing digital cash, how is that going to change how you're going to do business? Do you need to change your systems? Do you need to change your card swiping machines? Do you need to change your back-end systems? If for no other reason than thinking about the fact that someone may be able to literally walk through your security as if it's not there in a few years' time. If for no other reason than thinking about the fact that digital assets are going to have as much or more value than physical products within 10 years, then start looking at this. Start thinking about this. If for no other reason than realizing that your children are already in the metaverse, your children are already engaging in the way that will be common for us in 5 or 10 years' time, then start looking into it. It's not going to solve all your problems, but if you don't do it, you're risking irrelevance.
That is a really solid reason, Alex. And the only objection I think a lot of people will have is just that, but I'm terrified. There's so much information out there, and there's no curriculum that, teaches you all of this stuff. What would you recommend as an entry point for a visionary, for an executive, for even somebody who is beginning to build a small business, but they know they want to scale, they want to grow, and they want to be relevant 5 years from now and carry on growing? Where should they start? I know there's you, but
there's me. Please give me a call.
Well, we'll send your LinkedIn profile.
There we go. Yes, feel free to connect with me with LinkedIn. So yes, you're absolutely right. There are in fact plenty of courses and experts and influencers out there who will claim to be able to tell you everything you want to know. Unfortunately, the courses tend to be technical and they don't tend to get down to cases. I am, watch the space, please connect with me with LinkedIn. I am in the process of actually writing the book that demystifies all of this for corporates and where basically looks at what they do and why it's important as opposed to the how they do it. So that will be coming, but I wish it were available today. It's not. And unfortunately, I can't get ChatGPT to write the book for me, so I do have to do it myself. But really, it's about just starting to learn. Start doing a few Google searches. You don't have to do it yourself. Get your CTO to do it. Get your CIO to do it. Say, I heard about central bank digital currencies. What are those? It's about chatting to your children. I mean, my favorite quote about the metaverse was from a colleague of mine's 8-year-old, because she said to them, guys, have you ever heard of the metaverse? And they're like, Mom, the metaverse is the betterverse. So start having these conversations, start thinking about where your business could be impacted by this. And this isn't something you have to do by yourself as an executive. This is something you take to your team. I watched the League of Visionaries podcast and there was this woman talking all about this new technology, and I don't think we're doing anything with it. Go back and come back to me in a week and tell me what the possibilities are. Because that's all you really should be doing right now, is actually learning and figuring out where it could fit into your business. Unless you are a Microsoft or a Google or another business that has millions of dollars to burn, do not jump in with both feet. If you are a startup, there are ways to get into the space that are a lot quicker. Maybe you want to consider it, maybe you don't. But as a corporate, which tends to be my main focal area, just start figuring stuff out, start experimenting, start saying, if we did this, what would it look like? If we had a digital asset as a ticket that could then give us royalties, how would we do that? Who can we partner with? That's what you need to be thinking about. So it's not about jumping in with both feet and suddenly everything's on the blockchain and it's quantum resistant and it's in the metaverse. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I am saying that in 2 to 3 years' time, you will be opening your checkbook for this the same, well, not that we have checkbooks anymore. You will be doing your digital transfers to companies for this, the same way that 5 years ago, very few people were in cloud, and now everyone's in the cloud. So this is coming like it or not. So ignore it at your own risk.
That's a really good analogy, the fact that everybody's now in the cloud, because we don't think about being in the cloud anymore.
Exactly.
And that's when you know it's been fully adopted. We don't think of being on our mobiles as our connection to everything anymore. It's just obvious. And that is where this is eventually going to go. Exactly. But it is a process. But you mentioned something there, Alex, that really gives a lot of punch to this, because in the tech world, there is the temptation to go towards, the information and it's there, and go to GitHub or whatever the place of the moment will be. ChatGPT. What?
Yes, don't believe a word it says. Don't believe a word it says.
Absolutely. But you say, go talk to people, connect with your kids, connect with your team, and go and explore this together. And I love that. And that is something that in your industry is maybe too rare. And possibly one of the reasons is because we don't have enough women in technology. That's one of the things you advocate for. Please share with us your view on women in technology and why they're so important and so needed there.
We're still completely underrepresented. These stats, even if you just look at VC funding, it's horribly scary, the comparison of the amount of money that is given to an all-male founder board compared to a split gender founder board compared to female founders. It's quite horrific. As women in technology, find what you love. You've got to find what you love about technology, and just remember that. Remember that the world is now global. You're not limited to the office that you're sitting in. You have a global platform. So it doesn't matter if you are in Cape Town, if you are in Nairobi, if you are in London. And reach out to the women in tech. They are amazing. LinkedIn is going to be your best friend. Search for, use the hashtag Web3 or Women in Web3. Feel free to reach out and connect to me. I very regularly post about other women who are doing this work in emerging technology. But look for the people around them. Don't be discouraged by the fact that you are the only woman developer in your team. You have something amazing to add, and something that we're really seeing, especially in this new iteration of the internet around the metaverse, which, as I said, is far more about interaction than it is about the technology, or it is about the data, although there is a data component, obviously, is how many amazing women there are in the metaverse. I'm going to mention just two here quickly. Kathy Hackle literally wrote the book on the metaverse, HACKL. So please go and follow her on LinkedIn. She has absolutely amazing content. And if you want to read the book on the metaverse, she is the one to do it. If you are more into the entertainment side, Samantha Tauber, she was recognized as a global icon last year because she's created a digital avatar called, I always say Venetian's wrong, Vinci, VNCII. But she is a digital avatar musician, as well as being a chief metaverse officer and someone who literally goes to Davos to talk about the metaverse. So go and search for them. Go and search for women in blockchain. There is an African Women in Blockchain Association. The support is out there for you. And if you're not in this space, search for women in tech. Search for women in leadership. Connect with them. Don't be scared that I'm not going to accept your connection request. I love connecting with other women in tech. Don't be afraid that that person that you think, oh, no, I'm just a little fish, that's big fish. It is amazing how supportive people are when you just reach out. They're far less supportive when you reach out going, hey, let's connect on our synergies and seeing how I can sell you this product. So let's put 15 minutes in the diary now. That's not going to go down as well. But if you reach out just saying, I've been following your content. I love what you're doing. I'm also in the space. Can we connect? 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a yes.
Absolutely. That is so, so valuable. Yes. Thank you, Alex. And in the spirit of inclusion, of course, there may also be men who want to get further along their journey in this, and especially here in Africa. And you have just the LinkedIn group for us. Tell us about your Africa Web3 revolution.
Perfect. So I realize that at the end is perhaps a bad time to be telling you about me, but just for a bit of context, I head digital innovation for EOH, which is one of Africa's largest and leading IT service providers. So I've got the corporate credentials. I sit as a founding member of the World Metaverse Council. So I've got the metaverse credentials, but my passion project, as Marie says, is what I've called tentatively the Africa Web3 Revolution. Name is a bit long. We're probably going to rebrand it. But that's really about supporting, connecting, and celebrating businesses in tech and individuals in tech in Africa. Because as we said at the beginning, Africa is really a bit of a forgotten continent, especially in the tech world. And I started this community really, because that's what it is. It's a community with the thought that worst case scenario, I will meet some really interesting people. I will hopefully connect a couple of people and help them, and hopefully be able to get a few stories out there. And that's exactly what I'm doing with this. So we do have a LinkedIn group. If you can search for it, it's called the Africa Web3 Revolution. That's where we're starting. We're going to grow the community beyond there. I've got a lovely roadmap from Q2 of this year onwards. But just in terms of that, I'm going to give myself a quick plug now. I'm going to be speaking at the Future Fashion and Technology Expo in Qatar at the end of April. Which is represented by a lot of very high-profile global individuals will be there. And I'm speaking specifically about African innovation and what is happening in this space and why people should pay attention to us. So as I say, it's my passion project. If you are working in tech in Africa, I want to meet you. I want to hear your story. If you are a startup founder in this space, I definitely want to hear your story. And I want to connect you to other people who are in the same space. Let's share lessons. Let's support one another, and let's really raise the profile of who we are as a continent and what we're doing. Because we have use cases that we have examples of using technology that people in developed markets couldn't even imagine. I'm just going to do one because I know we're running towards the end of time, Marie, but if I had to ask you what the first place where I could use cryptocurrency to pay for something outside of the emerging technology world would be. If I gave you the example of a big retailer or an iPhone app or using WhatsApp in the township here in South Africa, which of those three do you think would have been the first to have cryptocurrency as a payment method?
Based on the fact that the first time I saw a real world invitation to pay in Bitcoin on a shop door, which was at a fish and chip shop at Morgan Bay in East London, I actually would say probably the WhatsApp in the township option.
You're absolutely right. I wasn't aware of the fish and chips shop. Maybe you could share the name. But yes, these guys are amazing. They built, effectively, if you're in South Africa, we have an app called Mr. Delivery, which connects you to all the restaurants around and it sends you food. Now, Mr. Delivery doesn't work in the middle of the townships, which are our informal settlements. Most people there they might have smartphones, but they don't have as much data. They're not going to have as many apps available to them. And the infrastructure is not as great. And honestly, the drivers from Mr. Delivery generally won't go into the depths of the township for a lot of historical reasons. So what these guys did, because everyone there uses WhatsApp, they literally built a takeaway platform into WhatsApp. You can basically say, what are the restaurants near me? Gives you the options. So it behaves like it's a chatbot, basically. Here the options are, okay, there's a pizza and a burger place. I want a burger. I select my burger. How do you want to pay? Cash on delivery, credit card, or cryptocurrency? I mean,
My
that's insane.
goodness.
That is in the heart of Khayelitsha. But I cannot pay with my Bitcoin. I cannot do the pick and pay, but I can't pay with my
Right.
Bitcoin on Mr. Delivery. So the innovation that's happening here is amazing, and no one knows about it.
And more people need to know about it. And that is exactly why we need your visionary message out there. Alex, there's so much more to unpack. And I know the best place is probably to carry on following you on LinkedIn. And for people who haven't found you yet, that is a great place. Alex shares solid gold there. And it's a beautiful gateway, a friendly gateway into what can be quite a scary world. But Alex, in our last few minutes, I'd love to hear about your speaking, because the subjects you speak about are so vital. Where can people find you and book you as a speaker? What's coming up next?
So from a speaking perspective, I obviously speak at a lot of conferences and on a lot of podcasts. For the moment, please just connect with me via LinkedIn. I have a website coming. But from a speaking perspective, I am one of the leading female speakers in tech, especially in Africa. So if you are interested in learning more about technology, if you are interested in learning more about innovation in Africa, if you're learning about mass adoption or anything within that space, please do reach out and connect with me. I would love to be on your podcast. I would love to be at your conference. And I also offer individualized corporate speaking depending on your needs. So please do reach out to me. You can book an appointment directly on my LinkedIn profile at the moment, and there will be a website that will hopefully be launched. In fact, will be launched for the end of April, which I will obviously promote my LinkedIn page as well, which will give you a more detailed offering of what is available and what I can do for you.
Beautiful. And we're putting all your links in the description to this show. Before I wrap up, Alex, what have I not asked you? What do people still need to know?
I suppose that seeing as I am still in corporate, let me quickly put my corporate hat on and just remind you that if, as a corporate company out there, you are looking for an IT partner who is very much in the thought leadership space, please do reach out to us at EOH. We have some fantastic people working for us. We've got a breadth of experience that is pretty much unparalleled in Africa. So if you are looking for people to help execute on your IT projects, please do reach out to us at EOH. You're again welcome to connect with me. I will connect you to the right people. But seeing as I am still head of digital innovation at EOH, I think let's end with my corporate hat and say, let's not forget about them. I can tell you what you should be doing. They can do it for you.
Alex Pryor, thank you so very, very much for being on the League of Visionaries podcast to share your visionary message and to demystify for us a little bit of what is possible in emerging technology and really why it matters.
Thank you so much for having me, Maria. I've absolutely loved this, as I hope that lots of people will reach out to me because I have so much more to share. I could spend all day talking about this. So thank you so much.
But I will let you go anyway. You've been listening to the League of Visionaries podcast by Yazi Media, proudly brought to you by Totally Morpheus. Subscribe to the League of Visionaries podcast here on your favorite podcasting platform and follow Yazi Media on LinkedIn to find out more about how you can share your visionary message with the world. If you are a visionary, chances are you are also a leader. But what is your current leadership state? The way you are leading right now, your default setting, if you will. The E13 Leadership Assessment helps you to understand the way you lead, your strengths, and your potential challenges as a leader. And most importantly, how to create your unique leadership legacy. It's fast, it's fun, it's free. It's the E13 Leadership Assessment from Totally Morpheus. And when you take this assessment, you will get an instant report right away, pointing the way to your living leadership legacy. Find the E13 Leadership Assessment now at totallymorpheus.com.